Hi, Roy here from Roy Reads Anything, a channel about eclectic reading. And back after a week, I think that's the longest gap I've had since I started doing this kind of thing. Sorry about that, I've been kind of having to attend to the course I'm studying. So I put BookTube out of my mind so I could focus on other stuff, which is great. It means I've been up to my eyes in occult detectives and that kind of thing, which is good. But thought I'd pop back and try and do a Friday Reads video. Seem to be wearing an incongruous set of clothes. There's a reason for that. I had to go to the doctor to have blood taken for an annual test, and I thought to make it as quick as possible when I'm in there, I'll wear short sleeves so that I can enter the doctor's place and hurl my jacket away with one single cavalier motion, and there's my bare arm ready for the nurse to have at. But also it's cold, so I thought, okay, I'll wear many layers of short-sleeved clothes. So found about 5 layers of short sleeves, which was all fine. Got there, but perhaps because of the coldness of the revealed arms, it took ages. And I must say, it's something I hate anyway. I just look away. So she's first of all, she praised me for having prominent veins, which is maybe not the compliment I was expecting to receive today, but well, there you go. Prominent veins, but then she's saying, "Oh, can't get anything." She's sucking and sucking, and she's stabbing around, trying to find new veins, like something out of a Velvet Underground song. And the whole thing is like a 15-minute process, and I'm nearly fainting with the horror of it. So maybe the short sleeve but warmth combination wasn't the best idea, because I arrived with the blood flow of a desiccated mummy. But all of that's done. Uh, why? What did you want to see me about? Books. Yes. Okay. So what I have read are a few things. One of which is a classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which is one of those books where I thought I knew it, because I knew the basic story. I don't think it's a terrific spoiler to say it's about the guy who has a picture of himself that he keeps in an attic, and the picture ages and he doesn't. But beyond that, it's very strange. I found it quite shocking, actually, in a kind of American Psycho kind of way. Even though the terrible deeds are mostly happening out of sight and are just like alluded to, it's kind of it's a sort of a work of decadence. Okay, so there was actually a movement of artists and writers called the Decadence, and this gets associated with that. And the idea is a kind of art for art's sake, pursue beauty and beautiful experiences, but like beyond morality. In fact, not just to go beyond morality, but to actually deliberately seek out to do things of vice, basically virtues and vices as art material is part of the sort of philosophy of it. And you get quite a lot of philosophy. The first third of the book is pretty talky, not much happening, look, characters being introduced, um, but then it kind of gets going. I liked it, but like I say, if you really think about what's going on, just beneath all the exquisite imagery and so on, it's actually quite a disturbing read, I would say. So yay, Oscar Wilde did that. Also, like I say, a bit of a time crunch, so I'm sort of trying to keep the guttering flames of a couple of reading events going. including Hal for the Holidays. So Best of Hal Clement. That doesn't work, does it? It looks terrible. Um, I'll have to put a picture in. So Near Future Roy, with his unlimited time, will now edit in a picture of the cover of the Best of Hal Clement that I'm reading on my Kindle, which is great. So I've read another couple of short stories by Hal Clement. So the idea of the challenge is to rediscover Hal Clement, a classic hard SF author, uh, and I'm really enjoying the stories. He does a lot about creating alien races, and with really thinking through their biology, the way they would think, the way they would exist, and creating these kind of puzzles. So one of the stories I just read, there's a guy, he's been almost marooned on a planet that's got an incredibly harsh environment. It's like super hot, no atmosphere. So it's like, well, how are there living creatures there? What would their biology be? And how can he use that to get himself back into his spaceship that's been taken over by basically mutineers? So you get sort of interesting ideas about alien biology and a kind of a scientific puzzle that makes a little adventure. So that's good. I wish I was reading his longer form stuff, but at the moment I've been reading short stories. So Hal for the Holidays is pressing on. Christmas Evil Readathon, another one I'm just managing to hold on to just about. There's a group read there, Autumn Bleeds into Winter by Jeff Strand. So this is a modern horror novel. Uh, the plot is a teenager. He's seen his best friend being abducted, probably to be murdered, and he knows who did it, but no, the adults either don't believe him or they think that might be the case, but they can't do anything about it. So he's trying to he's trying to basically battle the serial killer in a kind of battle of wits kind of thing, and it's great, real page turner. Really enjoyed that. I'd probably call it a sort of 4-star read. So yes, Jeff Strand, enjoyable horror writer. Would probably read more of him again. Another thing I read, which could be one of the prompts from the Christmas Evil Readathon for a gifted book, is The Wishing Chair Again by Enid Blyton. So this is the reason I count it as a gifted book is it's the first present I remember getting for my birthday when I was like 4. And um, I've mentioned Enid Blyton before. In the UK, incredibly popular children's writer, not so much in the US. And the wishing chair is for little kids. The idea is these children have a magic chair that can sprout wings and fly you wherever you want it to go, which means like magical lands. So you can describe any magical place and it will take you there, which is pretty cool idea. And there's some nice sort of fantastic things like a wandering castle. What sort of pulls it back from being like really magical and intriguing is the kind of simplistic childrenly names for stuff. So there's like a brownie called Binky, and a baddie called Mr. Grimm, and stuff like that keeps it sort of confined to the world of little kids' stories, I suppose. But there's some nice imaginative stuff. Why is that in a horror challenge? Well, the prompts don't have to be all resolved through horror books exactly. Some things about it I did find a bit horrific. Yeah, so I did find some of it quite scary as a little kid, and I found that stuff. So they meet some characters called the Slipperies, described as follows. Peter and Molly looked hard at the 5 Slipperies. Each Slippery had one blue eye and one green, and not one of them looked straight at the children. Their hair was slick and smooth, their mouths smiled without stopping, and they rubbed their bony hands together all the time. So these scary dudes, trick the children and cut the wings off of the chair. And I remember finding this idea of the wings being cut off and there being like wing stubs left on the chair legs quite disturbing um, at the time. Also weird that the first present I was given was a sequel. I don't know what I don't recall is thinking, oh, thanks a bunch for giving me, bringing me in halfway through the story. Stuff's already happened. Where's the origin story? Um, anyway, yes, quite enjoyed reading that again. Okay, so yeah, those are the things I've been reading that aren't related to occult detectives. In the world of occult detectives, though, found this amazing thing, The Mysteries of Myra. So in 1916, there was a movie, a silent movie serial made called The Mysteries of Myra. Uh, Myra herself is a kind of medium. She has those kind of medium type powers. But there's a guy who's the psychic detective. There's a black magic cult who are trying to get her killed so they can inherit her money. There's vampires, witches, a Frankenstein type monster. So all of this happened in a now lost movie serial, but it had a simultaneous novelization. So the story would appear in newspapers week by week. So as in a kind of multimedia way, you could go to the cinema, see the images, not many words, and or read the story, lots of words, not many images, maybe one illustration. So the two things work together, or you could have one or the other, which I didn't know that was a thing. So that's pretty amazing. And I actually thought for a moment, did this really happen? Could there be a film like that predating Frankenstein and Dracula with all of those elements that no one's ever heard of, no one talks about? You know, that would be a great fictional prank or something to just make up. A bit like there was a Ramsey Campbell novel. I think it's Ancient Images, where there's a lost Karloff film. But no, I've looked it up in other archives, and this was a real thing. So, The Mysteries of Myra. Right, still going to be super busy, but I'm hoping to do some reading. This arrived, Conan, Blood of the Serpent. So, although I'm doing Read What You Own, this was a pre-order, so it kind of gets through the barrier just about. So, Robert E. Howard's Conan, sword and sorcery adventure character from the 1930s. There have been scores of sequels, some great, some not so good, and there haven't been any of those for 10 years. And now there is one, published by Titan Books, nice hardback. I would agree with Steve Donoghue that probably it feels, well, to me it feels like Conan belongs in paperbacks really, but here we are with a hardback, nicely done, nice bit of spot UV varnish there on the Serpent, um, by SM Stirling, so good writer, so promising. um, Mercenary thief, soldier, usurper, Conan of Cimmeria. As sword for hire for a mercenary troop, Conan finds himself in Sukhmet, a filthy backwater town south of the river Styx, considered the arse end of Stygia. Serving in the company known as Zorallo's Free Companions, he fights alongside soldiers of fortune from Zingara, Koth, Shem, and other lands. A hard-handed band of killers loyal to anyone who pays them well. So, interesting blurb, and without wanting to overanalyze the dust jacket, the first paragraph, so you got these mercenaries, they're in the arse end of Stygia, in quotes. Now, just about this arse for a moment. It's not a word you would get in the original stories. Not that they were sort of little Lord Fauntleroy stories, but modern day curse words, even of the mildest kind. I don't think they appeared in Rob E. Howard. You'd get archaisms or made up stuff, cursing by the names of the gods of the time. So the introduction of an arse at this point indicates a kind of the narratives may be going to be modernized in some way. And the idea of these sort of it's got a sort of gritty feel to it, almost as if there's going to be a grimdark element to this, which is fine. So grimdark, a kind of subgenre of fantasy of sort of gritty anti-heroes and that kind of thing. Not very Conanic, Conan doesn't he's often in precarious situations, or his where there's been terrible losses and defeats, and maybe he's like the only one left alive even, but usually those sort of downbeat scenarios get transformed into high adventure pretty quickly. Anyway, like I say, not to pile in, but I'm worried about that arse. It's the the arse there. It's kind of introduced just an element of doubt into the whole proceedings. Other than that, book looks great. There's a nice illustration there. I don't really like illustrations inside books. To me, I enjoy covers and I like comic books, but in a book, illustrations as such, yeah, there's another great one. I'm kind of not a fan because I think if you're reading the book, you're reading it and visualizing it. You don't need pictures popping up to interrupt the flow of the text and show you things. Personal opinion, it's a bit like on your wedding night, you don't want to be leafing through a portfolio of erotic pictures. You want to be directly involved. Analogy. Plus a map of the Hyborian Age. So the stories are set in... Sorry, that seems to amuse my wife on some level. So it's set in sort of prehistory, lots of adventurous lands, including Stygia, which we're going to go to Stygia. In fact, we're going to go to the arse end of Stygia, which is a sort of like ancient Egypt, but you also get sort of analogues of places like Spain and France, where you'd have sort of chivalric type adventures, all the way over to the sort of versions of India, China, Russia, and the northern places, including where Conan comes from. So all of these are like bits of territory as settings for adventures, from what would it really be, the tone of them would be from lots of different periods of history, but we don't worry about that. Robert E. Howard's just piled everything in and has Conan wandering through all of this territory so that he can give us the most entertaining stories possible. So that's what I'll be reading this weekend. Gonna stop now. Thanks for listening.
Before you stop, can I just say one thing?
Okay, sorry. Intervention from Dr. Jenny.
Is the arse the thin end of the wedge?
Is the arse the thin end of the wedge? Well, we will unmix those metaphors once I've read it. Okay, bye.